Have you ever had one of those days where everything just feels right? The sky is that perfect shade of October blue. The breeze is crisp enough to make you glad you grabbed your old hoodie, and the leaves. Oh, the leaves are putting on their golden red magic show like they do only once a year. It was one of those days that makes you pause and think, yeah, this is why I live here. This is why I worked so damn hard for this life. That Saturday, I had my checklist and a sense of purpose. First up, cleaning the gutters. Now, some people might groan at that, but to me, it's satisfying. It's like brushing your teeth, but for your house. You get up there, scoop out a season's worth of muck, and when you're done, you just know you're ready for winter. It's about pride. It's about taking care of what's yours. Name's Marcus. I'm a retired detective. 25 years in the force, most of that in the kind of cases that don't make the news. The quiet ones. The complicated ones. My wife, Denise, says I'm meticulous to a fault. She's probably right. My ladder was level, my gloves thick, and I had a tarp laid out to catch the gunk because no way was I letting rot drip onto my fescue. I was halfway through the right side of the house, feeling pretty good, when I felt it. That prickly, invisible pressure on the back of your neck. Like someone's watching. I didn't even have to look, I knew exactly who it was. Across the street, in her too pristine saltbox house, lived Lorraine Whitmore. She's the kind of woman who seems to have been born with her arms crossed. Retired, but only technically. Full-time job, neighborhood compliance watchdog. Self-appointed, paid in smugness. I kept working, slowly dropping another wad of black sludge into the bucket without looking down. I could see her in my mind, standing with her hands on her hips, mouth puckered like she'd bitten into a lemon wearing pearls. And then Surprise-ish wasn't just watching. She started marching. Off her porch, across the sidewalk, and straight onto my lawn. She stopped just shy of the ladder, her feet planted like she was daring the earth to move. I looked down and gave her my friendliest grin. Beautiful day, isn't it, Lorraine? She sniffed, scanned my sweatshirt, my jeans, the bucket of wet leaves. Then she squinted up at me like I was a raccoon that had gotten into her begonias. What exactly do you think you're doing? She barked. Now, I've dealt with worse. Way worse. But there was something about the sheer absurdity of her tone, like I was violating sacred neighborhood law by existing. I'm cleaning my gutters, I said slowly. Just, gutters. Your gutters, she said, as if the concept personally offended her. That's what you're calling it. I kept my cool. Years of interrogation rooms taught me the power of silence. She filled it quickly. I've seen your type. Pretending to be homeowners. Scoping out weak spots. You're mapping the block, aren't you? I almost laughed. Almost. But then I saw the truth behind her words, and the humor drained away. It wasn't about gutters. It wasn't about trash cans or porch lights or city ordinances. It was about me. A black man on a ladder in her neighborhood. Lorraine, I said, firm but even. This is my house. I've lived here for 2 years. You know that. People lie, she shot back. Documents can be forged. I have a responsibility to my neighbors. I took a breath. You're trespassing, Lorraine. And you're making accusations that are dangerously unfounded. She went beet red. I'm protecting this street from people like you. And with that, she whipped out her phone and dialed 911. Now here's the part where the universe gave me a little wink. Because the dispatcher who picked up that call was my wife. Denise has been a 911 dispatcher for over a decade. Calm under pressure, sharp as a tack, and blessed with the patience of a saint. And at that moment, she was listening to my neighbor screech about a large aggressive man pretending to be a handyman trying to break into a second-story window. I just stood there on the ladder, holding my bucket, waiting. It was going to be better than cable. The sirens wailed not 5 minutes later, and Lorraine was vibrating with anticipation. She stood on my lawn like a revolutionary about to be vindicated. The cruiser rolled up with a familiar rumble. Out stepped Officer Ethan Reyes Young, thoughtful, the kind of cop you hope your kid turns out to be. I'd mentored him during his first year. Behind him was his partner, Tanya Monroe. Smart, no nonsense, and tough as a railroad spike. Ma'am, Ethan said calmly, walking up to Lorraine. We got a call about a break-in. Lorraine pointed dramatically. It's him. He was scaling that ladder. I was terrified. Ethan squinted up at me, and I gave him a little wave. Marcus, he asked, what the hell are you doing up there? Trying to save a buck, I said. Denise wants a new grill. Tanya snorted. Man, you're too old for ladders. I know. I said, starting to descend. But I'm stubborn. Lorraine's face was priceless, like someone had unplugged her. You know him? She asked. Ma'am, Tanya said. Marcus is a retired detective. He's one of us. Also, this is his house. No, Lorraine whispered. No, that's not. You're all in on it. This is some kind of cover-up. Ethan and Tanya exchanged a glance, the same one I used to give my partner when someone went completely off the rails. I decided to twist the knife, just a little. Denise told me you called, I said. She said you sounded very concerned. Her jaw clenched. You're all lying. Ethan took out his notepad. We'll file this as an unfounded report. But let's be clear, false calls to 911 waste valuable resources. Lorraine didn't reply. She just turned and marched back to her house, the air around her crackling with barely contained rage. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. That night, over Denise's famous pot roast, she looked up from her plate and said, She called you people. I nodded. I heard. She said it on the line, clear as day. I let that sit for a second. We can't let it go. Denise raised an eyebrow. So what? You gonna call internal affairs? No, I said, a plan forming in the back of my head. I'm going to do something worse. I'm going to beat her at her own game. I spent the next week becoming an expert on our HOA bylaws. 48 pages of legalese, scanned from the 1980s and barely legible. I read every word, highlighted, tabbed, memorized. Then I started walking. Evening strolls. No notebook. No phone. Just eyes. I wasn't looking for trouble, I was hunting for facts. And Lorraine's house was a gold mine. Her vinyl fence, a full 2 feet over the property line, built on HOA-maintained land. Her satellite dish, hidden behind a bush and never approved by the architectural committee. I built my case like I used to build murder files, meticulous, factual, and cold. Photos, diagrams, city plat maps, a cover letter citing exact bylaw violations. I didn't even use her name, just the property address. When I dropped that envelope into Mr. Kim's mailbox, the mild-mannered accountant who ran our HOA knew exactly what would happen. 30 days later, the notice of violation hit Lorraine's mailbox, and the meltdown was biblical. She screamed on her front lawn, called me a stalker, accused the HOA of conspiracy, claimed to be the head of a welcoming committee no one had ever heard of. And then she said the quiet part out loud. You people always want to take over. The street went silent. Mrs. Nguyen, the sweet retired teacher next door, shook her head and walked inside. Mr. Patel across the street muttered something under his breath and turned away. She was exposed. Finally, at the HOA meeting, she appealed the violations, claimed I was harassing her, spun a whole web of victimhood. And then it was my turn. I stood up with my folder, held up the plat map, pointed to the fence, read the bylaws, showed the photo of the satellite dish. No emotion, I said, just the rules. The board voted unanimously. Appeal denied. 30 days to comply or face daily fines. She went quiet after that, not in a reflective way, in a calculating way. Then came the psychological warfare. Weeds on my lawn, mud on my garbage can, mysterious newspapers under my car. Classic Lorraine. But I never reacted, never flinched. Then came the basement. Tom and Mia, young couple who bought Lorraine's house after she sold it in a huff, found water in the basement, a crack she'd painted over right before selling. Tom was furious. Mia was heartbroken. I was not surprised. I helped them find the original foundation contractor who had given Lorraine a $25,000 estimate to fix the issue. She'd opted for a $100 patch instead. They had her, in writing, with photos, with witness testimony. A lawsuit followed. She settled fast, paid every dime. Her final act of pettiness had cost her everything she valued: her money, her pride, her illusion of control. And the neighborhood? We healed. We talked more. We helped each other. The fear was gone. So if you've got a Lorraine on your street, take a breath. Don't shout. Don't stoop. Learn the rules. Gather your facts. And wait. Because sometimes, justice comes quietly, in a manila folder, in the click of a mailbox, in the silence after the storm. And sometimes, it comes in the form of a neighbor's little girl drawing chalk hearts on a sidewalk no longer watched by angry eyes. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a neighbor war like this. Did you fight fire with fire, or did you wait for your moment? Because sometimes, the quiet revenge is the sweetest kind.